All right, we get rolling on the Krueg Show. Hope everybody's having a great day. Kind of a warm day in the East Bay. Actually, yesterday was way hotter than today, thankfully. Today is actually beautiful. My daughter's home from Atlanta for nursing school, and she's saying, "Dad, it's great weather here today." I'm like, "Yeah, compared to freaking Atlanta in August, today is absolutely glorious." It is 4:08 on the West Coast, 7:08 on the East Coast. It is August the 8th. We are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. Check them out. They're open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. in both spots or until they run out. And the brisket's amazing. The brisket chili's amazing. The owner is Damon Stainbrook and his wife, Mary. And go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krueg sent you and that you're a regular on the Krueg Show, that you're a regular watcher of the Krueg Show. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass and New York Style Sausage Company. And joining us today, a man who has been at training camp quite a bit this summer, and he was there today. Half of Ham, Haberman and Middlecoff, Guy Haberman is with us. Guy, good to see you, man, again today.
We spent a lot of time together the last 2.5
Yeah, we've been spending some time together, and I think you're kind of like me in that, you like training camp. I think John likes training camp too, even though he hasn't been able to attend this year. But training camp is during the regular season they kind of chase us out. We don't get a chance to see a lot of practice. Training camp is the one time you can kind of get a vibe for a team. And you've been out to a bunch of practices. I've been out to basically every single practice this summer. And it's been a gigantic quarterback question every day. Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, Brandon Allen, of course, the starter Brock Purdy. How's it looking? This and that. Everybody's got their favorites. It's to me, it's like, between Darnold and Lance, it's really whatever day you go. I mean, some days Lance looks better. Some days Darnold looks better. But why don't we start our discussion right there with the quarterbacks, because it seems to be front and center, the primary issue with the Niners. You've been out there. What do you see from the Niner quarterbacks thus far?
Yeah, I've been of the mind that if we're just evaluating the way they've played on the practice field, that it's been pretty close between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. I really enjoy watching Brock. Like, Brock Purdy is one of the biggest stories in the NFL this year. He was one of the biggest stories in the NFL when last year ended. And can he be that guy again is one of the biggest stories in the league. But I don't watch Brock like he's in competition with those two guys, because he's not. He's not in competition with Trey, and he's not in competition with Darnold. He's the starting quarterback. I think it's been close. I have chosen to grade throws instead of count completions and total throws. And I think I've reached the same conclusion that you've reached when you evaluate it the way you evaluate it. So I've had a few different grading systems. I had the golf grading system,
which I like, by the way. Tell people if people aren't familiar with your golf grading system, explain it, because I think it's in some ways it's kind of the perfect way to evaluate the quarterbacks, more so than the completion percentage, more so than trying to jot down every play in the context of every play. Give people an idea who maybe are unfamiliar with what, your bogey, birdie, par, golf system of grading the QBs.
Yeah. So I did that for several days. I've changed the system because I think it has some flaws, but the basics was, you just said it. There are par throws, which in golf is even. There are birdie throws, which are scoring throws, right? Like, this is where it gets confusing, because they're plus throws, but golf is actually minus scoring. And there's bogeys, which are bad. There's double bogeys, which are twice as bad. And there's eagles, which are better than birdies.
What about the snowman, the triple bogey?
You just pick it up,
which I'm very familiar with.
Just put down an egg, move on. Yeah. So I liked it, and it was fun. But even though it was fun, Larry, and you've scouted, so you've had your own ways of grading. Even though it was fun, and I think an easy way to communicate it for a lot of people, some people don't get golf. And even more so, the bigger issue was not that some people don't understand golf scoring, which is fine. The bigger issue was that I think, and I was talking to a buddy of mine driving back from practice today who played NFL quarterback in the NFL. And I said to him, what do you think most of the throws are? And he said most of the throws that you have to make as a quarterback are the 0 graded throws and the throws that aren't great throws, but are above like a replacement level throw. And PFF has a system that accounts for those throws because what PFF does is they grade on a 0 to 2 scale with 0.5, 1, 1.52, and then negative throws, negative 0.5, negative 1, negative 1.5, negative 2. And what I found watching the Niners really thinking about my grading system the last several days was I felt like there were a lot of throws that were plus 0.5 and minus 0.5 throws that a par birdie bogey system just doesn't really account for. They're good throws. They deserve to be counted as good throws, but they're not quite excellent throws. But they're better than just a quick little check down throw, you know? And I thought my system was not, the golf system was not accounting for that. So I switched to kind of a quasi PFF system recently. You know, on the internet, some are calling it GFF, IFF, call it whatever you want. But I think that's a better way to kind of pick up some of the nuance. And so that's what I've done the last 2 days. So as an example, can I give you an example?
Yeah, give me please do.
And this is where like I want to know what you have for these quarterbacks today, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So today I had 3+ throws for Brock Purdy. They were all plus 0.5 throws. None of them were a +1 throw. I had 7 throws for Brock that I graded as just a 0, which PFF says that's a do your job to a reasonable and expected level. That's a 0 throw. And I had 3 minus throws for him. They were all 0.5, minus 0.5 throws today. So all in all, I graded 13 throws for him today. That's not all the throws because there were some throws that to me, they're just not a gradable throw. And 77% of his throws today were 0 or better. Okay. So he was a 0 today. 3 plus 5 throws, or 3 throws that were plus 0.5, 3 throws that were minus 0.5, and then 7 even throws. So he was even today. Trey was plus 0.5 today. He had 2 plus throws. He had 7 0 throws, which are good. And he had 1 minus throw. So I don't want to keep going because some people are lost and some people are high and some people are
187 says I'm lost and too high for this. LOL.
Yeah, I know. So it's not, the purpose of it is not to just regurgitate all the numbers. It's more for me to kind of understand what do I think I saw today.
And let me ask you this, and I'll give you what I have in my kind of system on this. But like give me an example of like John. You know, you do stuff with John Middlecoff, and I always love having you both on. John, I think, is in Tahoe or wherever he's at.
On his way to Tahoe.
On his way to Tahoe. So we'll get him on maybe another time. But like, what is John when John goes to camp and you guys are there? What does he bring a notebook? Does he you kind of have like, since you're a play-by-play guy and a good one, by the way, you kind of do almost like a broadcasting like a broadcasting card, like a football broadcaster would have, like a big board, but not quite as big as some of those boards. Show that to everybody. And so Guy prints out this board, and I would say it's like 2 feet by 1 foot, something like that.
It's not quite. It's these pages are each 17 by 11.
Okay, so and you have everybody in the depth chart, and it just gives you a nice little margin there, and then you bring a pen and you can write notes inside the margin on your depth chart. Yeah, and that's I think that's kind of a cool way of doing it. I know a lot of play-by-play guys really love their boards and work meticulously at putting together good boards. That's just your note-taking mechanism. But like, what's right. John scattered with the Eagles, and you guys have done stuff for years.
Yeah.
Like when he goes to camp, what's his mode, or what's his kind of approach to the whole thing, or does he make notes? Some guys don't do anything. Some guys he just watches.
I think he'll make some notes in his phone if he wants to make notes.
Yeah,
like which a lot of people do. He watches.
He doesn't have like a system though that he likes to.
I don't think he doesn't score it in this way, which I didn't either until this year. And then I started seeing everybody posting 7 of 9, 9 of 3.
Right.
And I was like, well, I think there's more context than that, but I don't want to just say, I just want to know if what I perceive is after the fact is what I actually thought if I just went individually, to try to avoid any buy, I don't want to pander to the people who just talk about storylines and not storylines, but narratives, etc. But I just wanted, it was like a test for me. Like, did I see what I think I saw? But, I don't know. I remember when the Eagles didn't keep him, he tried to keep as much stuff off the laptop before they wiped the laptop. He had to send it back. I don't know what was your grading system when you scouted? How did you guys do it?
Well, I mean, I scouted with the Sacramento Gold Miners, and that was more like, I was working for the Gold Miners, and I was in camp. I was also the quality control coach. I was the assistant linebacker coach. I was a personnel assistant. I wore a lot of hats. I probably worked 120-hour weeks, and I didn't make tons of notes because I was just immersed in everything I was on the staff, so I was involved in making the practice schedule, designing what plays. I would visit with the head coach. We would talk about, how exactly he wanted me to crunch the numbers this week. He would have new approaches to crunching the numbers every week. So it was my job to establish the numbers. So I would take games off, and in that mode, we would just go literally down in distance, on the field. Then we would turn it into our language. What are they doing, and what do we call that in our language? And then I would, break it down off my sheets, and every game would be literally every single play. And it would be 1st and 10 on your own 20-yard line, 1st and 10 from the -20. What was the formation? What was the, in the CFL had different kinds of things. So you would have, you'd have to take account for, is it 5 wides? Is it 4 wides? Is it, so then you're rolling back from the beginning of it would take us hours because you'd literally break the huddle and you'd have to go check the numbers because it's okay, there's 5 eligibles here. But are those 5 running backs? Are those 5 receivers? Are those receivers in the backfield? We had different terminology for everything. Then we had play action. Then we had bootleg. We had different series. And so you'd have to come up with all of it. And if that's what was the hardest part, because you have to take off every film correctly, because the old saying, if your premise is wrong, your conclusion is wrong. So it's if your takeoffs were wrong and you got all that wrong, then you could never draw any real conclusions to help your team scout the opponent, because you're not even in the right formation or the right personnel grouping. So we would group it just personnel grouping, formation, and then what was the play, what was the result, and then notes on the results. So literally every play would take almost 10, 12 minutes unless it was something real basic. And then it was a matter of crunching all the numbers. I did it all manually. Now they do it with computers. And so that's how I did it then. Now, when I was with the Cardinals, I did pro personnel evaluation, and we had a whole system of numbers that we would grade the receiver, the players on. And this is at the dawn of free agency. And so it's a little bit different. Those were guys that were in the league, and we're grading them against the other free agents that were going to be available that year. So it was a little bit of a different process. But for me now, I go to practice. I bring out, I've got multiple notebooks, but I basically bring out a small notebook here. And in my notebook, I'll just go with just basic notes. So, I went with the transaction of the day, Ronald A. Watt cut, Jeremy McNichols signed. Then I went into just anecdotes, one-on-one notes. And then when it gets to 11 on 11, I'll put the quarterback, square him out, and then count his reps, and then just basically briefly describe what happened. And if something stands out, I write it. If it doesn't stand out, I go to the next play. And I'm really trying to keep minimal notes just so I can have an account of what the quarterbacks are doing, and then an account of anything. And then at the end of practice, I go through, and since I'm doing 2 videos every day, an instant reaction, I'm going through my notes, putting together an instant reaction sheet with anything that stood out to me, and then I do a good and a bad, and I kind of break it down, and I do 2 videos, and then I hit the road and head home. So that's kind of my approach. It's everybody's got to do a different approach to the thing. But let's, as far as the quarterbacks, I think, for example, today, I'll give you what I had on the quarterbacks. I had the quarterbacks at Purdy of 9 of 16, which doesn't look good if you just go completion percentage. He began 4 of 4, so then he went 5 of 12 after that. Lance 3 of 7, Darnold 5 of 8, Allen 1 of 2. What makes things difficult to evaluate in the training camp setting is sacks aren't sacks. Run stops up front are not run stops. The back keeps continuing on. The quarterback keeps rolling. So you have to. So I don't. I'll make a sack. I don't really keep track of the sacks that much. I'll put a sack in the margin if I think it's close. But basically, I'm just continuing and calling the plays. Even if the quarterback was sacked 5 times and he passes 5 times after they were sacked, I count all 5 passes.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's kind of my mode. And as far as I'm a bemoaner of camp stats, and yet I'm putting out these stats and looking at these stats myself now, just because I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses, because everybody else is kind of doing that. But overall, I'm just looking for an assessment. Like, I thought the best throw today by Brock Purdy was the laser out throw that he made to Ayuk right in front of me, where it was kind of like a 15-yard out, and he threw it like a frozen rope on a line. And and he was actually had moved to his right. So to me, that was like, okay, that throw is the kind of throw that I'm worried about with Brock Purdy. Can he make the deep out from the wide hash to the wide side of the field and put it with, really shoot it out there with accuracy and velocity, because that window's tight and that's a tough throw to make. So when he made that throw, that tells me, hey, that's worth noting, because you've got, that's a difficult throw to make. For Trey Lance, I'm looking more at, I know he can make the deep cut throws. I'm looking more of, when he's got the layup throws, is he hitting all of the layups? Because that's really his challenge. He struggles with it. And with Darnold, I'm really looking at, is he taking care of the football? Is he turning it over? The guy's got 100 turnovers in 56 career games, or 90 turnovers, or whatever it is, in 56 career games. Turnovers are his bugaboo. So, and he did throw a pick today. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But overall, I think Brock Purdy has demonstrated that he's back from the injury and that his arm strength is as good or better than what it was last year. And he seems very much in command on the field. I like what I've seen. It's not perfect. His stats aren't great, but I like to see some interceptions from my quarterbacks in camp, because they need to test their boundaries and they need to test their limits. And you don't get that if you're just always checking it down.
Yeah, which I think Sam Darnold's done a lot of. And today I thought the shot he took was a good shot. It was a sideline throw down the field. Jair Brown, the safety, came over and made a play.
Yeah.
It
was to Ray McLeod, and I think McLeod was closer to the sideline. Jair Brown, obviously being the safety, was closer to the middle of the field. I thought the ball could have been more towards the sideline. It kind of hung a little bit in the air and was a little bit more in the middle of the field. Jair got a great look at it, and Jair's got a lot of interceptions over the last few years, and he picked it out of the sky, and the sideline went crazy.
Yeah, he is. Like, there are some things with real action you really want to see outside of the quarterbacks. And one of them is a player who is physical, who plays with, a motor like Jair Brown does. Games are going to be much more valuable in figuring out, can he really contribute this year for them? I think he can. I think their safeties are pretty good. Practice is just not, it's not the place for him, especially when you're not getting first team reps necessarily, because physicality is going to be a part of his game. Like, I'll tell you this, my Darnold thing to watch, the turnovers for sure. For me, when I went back and watched him last year, it's about getting the ball out on time. He, I think, really struggles with that. And practice is just, it's going to be a little harder. So I think that could be, if you're looking for where could there be discrepancies between game and practice, that'd be something where you don't get punished in practice when you don't get when you hold the football. And Darnold, I think, holds the football too long in games. And so that's my thing.
That's a good one. I agree. I totally agree with that. I think that's a good assessment. He does. He holds the football. Why do you think that is? Do you think that's just he's not decisive?
Yeah.
He doesn't throw with anticipation as much as I'd like to see.
I don't know if he sees it. Now, maybe he's trying to do things that Kyle's not going to – maybe Kyle's going to say to him, all you got to see is that It's going to come open right there. So that's where you're going. And if it's not, it's McCaffrey right there. So maybe it'll be easier for him, right? That's part of this offense. I gave the stat, Josh Dubow gave it to me the other day. Jimmy Garoppolo was number 1 in the league last year on yards per attempt on Pro Football Focus's 0 graded throws. So your basic throw led the league in yards per attempt, meaning Kyle created easy throws. Number 2 in the league was Brock Purdy. Yards per attempt on 0 graded throws. So, part of if Darnold's better at that stuff, is it because he evolved or because he's being asked to do something different? I don't know. We'll see. The preseason is where we'll definitely see it. Whether we see it in games, who knows? But that was my thing when I watched him last year. He holds on to the ball too long.
I did a stream yesterday with Grant Cohn. He made a huge deal over the fact that Kyle has called Brock the real deal. And he's having a field day with that. What I looked at that as Brock Purdy is Kyle Shanahan's first 49er quarterback, and this is his first head coaching job. So in some ways, this is his first quarterback, though he did have Matt Ryan in Atlanta when he was the OC. But in some ways, I think Brock Purdy is the first quarterback that lives and breathes football like a coach, and also can execute it. So, like, in some ways, I think that Brock is an extension of Kyle out there. And so when Kyle calls Brock the real deal, I think that's a nod to, by Kyle to say, hey, you know what? I think this guy is special. And I think he thinks he's special because he can think the game and he can carry out Kyle's wishes to the field and execute them. What was your takeaway when you heard? Were you surprised when Kyle called Brock Purdy the real deal?
No, because I thought the same thing you thought, which is that's him saying this guy has all the intangibles. That's how I took it. Not this guy is about to be Mahomes.
Right. Or Josh
and I don't even
Allen
think he necessarily meant this is the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years for the 49ers. I think he just meant, I think the way I interpreted it was this guy has every intangible, right, that you want. But yeah, the question is that enough to overcome some of his physical limitations into becoming a franchise quarterback? Does he throw enough touchdowns to overcome for the fact that he's got a little bit of he's got a little, like a lot of guys, a little Favre, DNA, let me make a few plays thing. Favre threw the most interceptions, but he also threw all the touchdowns, and he had the arm to do some crazy stuff, right? But that's how I interpreted that comment. But the jury's still out, as to whether that is enough to become a franchise quarterback, whether he has exactly what is required to become a franchise quarterback. But I thought he meant like, yeah, he'll get popped in the face and I thought it meant he's unafraid and he's prepared and he's tough and he's a leader and he's got some shit to him. Like all of that stuff is what I thought it meant. But you could argue, don't say real deal unless it also means all pro level, real deal means tier 1 quarterback, right? Jalen Hurts, maybe he's not tier 1, but people like his coach would say he's the real deal.
I look at real deal as defined as you think you can win a Super Bowl with that quarterback. Now, some people think that means he's a franchise quarterback. I don't know that there's these titles are nebulous, but to me that I think is the defining characteristic of the real deal. Yeah. You think you can win a Super Bowl with that guy. And I think that's where Kyle is.
Right now, I understand why he feels that way. This team the standard is, can this team win a Super Bowl? Based on what we know right now, Larry, if they win a Super Bowl, maybe 10 years from now won't look this way. But if they win a Super Bowl this year, they will, for the time being, be in the category of teams that is kind of the exception to the rule. Teams that win Super Bowls without blue chip quarterbacks or franchise quarterbacks, right? It happens. You have to be exceptional. Yeah, Foles, Dilfer, but
Brad Johnson.
The Jets almost got to the Super Bowl twice with Mark Sanchez, but they didn't almost win the Super Bowl. And so are the Niners good enough to win the NFC? Yeah. Are they Super Bowl contenders? Yes. But there is a step between good enough to compete in the NFC Championship game and beat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl. Like there is a jump there. And so if they do that, they will be winning the Super Bowl without a question, the less talented quarterback. And, it's not always that the most talented guy wins, but it's a tier 1 or borderline tier 2 guy that wins championships. Now, maybe in 10 years, you look back and he was the franchise quarterback for a decade. And then you go, well, they weren't the exception. That's just the dude. But I think right now, that's how it looks. Like they've got to do it with exceptional talent everywhere else. And a quarterback that we don't know yet whether or not he's a franchise. It's why this team is so bizarre. Like to be Super Bowl contenders without a franchise quarterback consistently is pretty crazy. It's abnormal.
It is. It tells you a lot about the strength of their run game, the strength of their defense, and the weakness of the conference as well. Now, Trey Lance, in my opinion, is much improved. I think he's thrown a better ball. I think he looks far more knowledgeable in the offense. He should. It's almost like taking Spanish 1 twice. The second year, you should do better than the first year, right? I mean, or it's I look at football in some ways like a foreign language because there's a lot of memorization. There's a lot of things you almost have to. It does help you to take. It's like taking a class a second time when you're second year in a complex offense. I mean, if you don't realize how complex the Niners offense is, Cameron Latou looks just totally bewildered right now on the practice field because his head's spinning and he can't catch the ball. He dropped 2 today, and we talked to him after practice, and he's like, "There's a lot of factors, there's a lot of things going on." He's like, "I just got to be better," which is the right thing to say. But his head's spinning because of all the nuances to the pro game that didn't exist at Bama. But I think Trey's improving dramatically. But I don't think he should start week 1. I think Brock is clearly the better quarterback right now, because of all the things that he can do on the football field, nuance-wise of the position. But the people that are arguing for Trey, Guy, are saying, hey, he's got a skill set like a Mahomes, like an Allen. He's got the body, the strength, the athleticism, the smarts. He's got that kind of a skill set. He's got a higher-end skill set than Brock or Sam or Brandon Allen, and that thus these people want to see it right now. I would say I agree with them that he's got a really high skill set, but I also think that he's not quite there yet, and I think they're right to go with Purdy, but I also don't believe if I were the 49ers that I would feel comfortable moving off of Trey Lance. In fact, I think if they moved off of Trey Lance, they would regret it. Where are you with Lance? And you talked to John earlier today. Where you guys? Where's John with Lance? Where do you guys feel like? Do you see the improvement? Do you feel like he's on a trajectory of being a franchise quarterback, or are you guys both very skeptical, or do you differ in how you look at him?
I think I'm more optimistic about him than John, but part of that is John has said for a while, like he thinks Kyle's going to go with Darnold as his backup quarterback, or ahead of Trey. And I think there's a lot of validity to thinking Kyle's going to do that. But I have said, I'm not out on the possibility that Trey can still become a franchise quarterback because of his talent level and because I've seen him improve. I'm with you. He does look better. I think he throws a more consistent spiral this year than he has in years past. So if we just want to talk about the fundamentals of him getting the ball out, he still sometimes throws a little bit of a wobbler, but that happened. I mean, that's not exclusive to him. But it feels like to me sometimes he does when he tries to really power the ball. But he has thrown several balls, kind of intermediate throws that have been as good as any other throws that anybody's making in Niners camp over the last several years. Like now, they're not plus throws, but they are NFL throws. They are the throws that move the ball down the field. Ultimately, for Kyle to give Trey the chance, however that has to transpire again, right? Sometimes on this team, it's just meant by default, somebody becomes the starting quarterback because other guys get hurt. But I do think he's going to have to trust that he can make the layup throws consistently if he's going to choose Trey over one of these other guys who maybe more consistently makes that throw. But if we just remove Kyle from the equation and say, is there still potential upside on Trey? I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. It's different than what we thought it was when he came into the league, where you really thought the quarterback run game was going to be a part of his repertoire. I've thought he looks pretty uncomfortable running. Now, maybe if he takes more time and gets to play 10, 12 games in a row, which I think is pretty critical for anybody, then that part becomes a little more natural for him. But I actually think it's not in his. I know some people think he should demand a trade. I've talked about it. We all have. I don't think it's necessarily in his best interest, although we can agree he needs to play. But I wouldn't give up on being the 49ers quarterback quite yet if I were Trey Lance's agent, let's say, right? And think like, oh, yeah, just get me somewhere where I can get a bunch of snaps, because that is critical. But he's at a point where he should really know this offense, playing for a coach who I don't think has a long quarterback leash, with two other quarterbacks that are pretty unproven, right? And on a team with a quarterback injury history. So I wouldn't rush out of this. Like, if I were his agent, I wouldn't try to rush him out of this situation quite yet. I'd let this thing play
out. Did you watch the Hall of Fame game at all?
No, very little.
But you're aware that Dorian Thompson-Robinson played well in it, right?
Yes, I am. I've been aware that Niner fans want Dorian to be their quarterback. Yeah.
Well, there's that angle too. But I just think my whole point in bringing it up is just that I really think that, Trey's value. I mean, the talk, Mike Silver said, the Niners were offered conditional 5th-round picks for Trey Lance. And there's no way in hell I would make that trade. There's no way in hell I would trade Trey Lance for a conditional 5th-round pick. But if he plays well Sunday against the Raiders, his value will go up the same way that Dorian Thompson-Robinson's value probably went up around the league because of how he played against the Browns in the Hall of Fame game. It's amazing how, if you do it on television and people see it, then
owners see it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like suddenly, like, his value, people are talking definitively about his value, like his value is going to remain the same. No, it won't. He if he plays poorly, they won't be able to get the conditional 5th they were supposedly offered around the draft. If he plays well, that 5th probably becomes a 2nd or a 3rd overnight. But here's my question.
With you on that point, though.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
I don't think. Let's say pick a team. The Falcons,
that needs Titans, a quarterback. The Raiders.
If you're Josh McDaniels and you're kind of on a razor's edge with your owner, you better be damn sure that Trey Lance is your quarterback if you're going to trade a 2nd-round pick for him. If you're the Titans, you're Rand Carthen. You just showed up. Mike Vrabel already kind of had a disagreement with the last GM, and that guy's gone. And you're actually kind of in a good spot, right? If let's say you're Rand Carthen, you're not in a rush to like force a quarterback on Mike Vrabel. You got kind of a little cushion here. You're going to say, Mike, that 2nd-round pick where you can get like premium players? Let's trade that for Trey Lance. You are immediately on the clock with Mike Vrabel. A 5th-round pick, whatever. I'm not so sure that you're getting a 2nd-round pick that quickly, or even a 3rd-round pick, because I think as the team, you're taking on how many quarterbacks have left Kyle Shanahan? I know we talk a lot, fairly so, about whether or not Kyle can develop a quarterback, but how many guys have left Kyle and gotten better? So I'd be very hesitant to say, let's take this guy who one of the best offensive coaches in the league has moved on from and give a 2nd-round pick for him. I just think you're really putting yourself at risk if you're a general manager or a coach with personnel power, and you do that.
What if he has 3 good preseason games?
Yeah, if he has 3 good preseason games, isn't he the Niners' backup quarterback? Maybe. Now, maybe not. Maybe it's kind of rigged and Kyle just wants Sam to be the guy. But if he's got 3 good preseason games, I'm not rushing him out of town.
No.
Now, that's not what you're saying. You're just talking about what his value is.
Well, I'm just
2nd-round pick seems really rich.
It does. It does. Well, and I also think the 49ers wouldn't really move Trey, I don't believe, unless they got a player that helped them win the Super Bowl this year. That's how all in they are on winning the Super Bowl. But it is interesting that they somehow said something to Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen to attract them to this situation. And I would have loved to have been on the phone when John Lynch was saying, hey, come here because. And I'd love to hear his because. I just
Kyle
wonder,
has loved you for like 4 years. That's part
right.
of it.
But I wonder, how will the 49ers react? I think Trey's going to play well, right? I really do. That's why I bring this up. I think he's going to play well. What I don't know, guys, I don't know how the 49ers are going to react to him playing well. Are they going to react because, hey, they floated a number of teams, hey, are you interested? And suddenly those teams said, we'll give you a fifth. And now they say, hey, we'll give you a player and a third. And then what if they get a nice offer? Will they say, hey, we got Brock Purdy here and Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen. Let's move off of Trey? Or will they then be so won over by how well he's played and say, no. Well, let's see this thing through to completion. Because the only thing about this is that now there's a cap, and now his number is going up. And it's like you always want to, general managers, the coach looks about, what's going on Sunday. The GM's got to look what's going on down the road. And what's going on down the road is that you got a really loaded team and some great players that may have to walk out the door at the end of the year, and you have a cap problem. Are you willing to pay Trey Lance the money that it's going to take to keep him next year if you want him, or do you want to see that development path through to completion, or do you want to recommit to Brock Purdy and stack your roster and have a better cap situation and retain more of your star talent that you have surrounding Brock Purdy? That part I don't know. Do you have a guess on that? Do you think if he plays well, how do they react to it?
Well, I'm not saying they will trade him. I'm saying I think they absolutely would be willing to trade him.
You think so?
Just based on the fact they brought Sam Darnold in on the first day of free agency.
And Brandon Allen.
And what did Kyle say? We don't get rid of players we like. That's what he said when the Brandon. Now, they haven't gotten rid of Zane Gonzalez either. They're just holding him for the same reason they held on Jimmy last year, right? Maybe he can be value before the season starts, somebody gets hurt. So it could be as simple as that. But they think, like, if you told Kyle right now, Trey's not available to you, he would say, all right, well, I got Sam to be the backup. Brock's my starter. So, we're talking about one of those two guys is the third string quarterback. So,
and they can't keep all four. There's no way to keep all four.
And I wouldn't keep, the idea. You
can't keep 4 on the 53.
Can you keep 3 on the 46?
No.
No. So at least by week 1,
but there's that new rule, right?
90. Yeah. So we got the depth chart came out. It said or between the two of them, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I'm looking at the first depth chart for Niners Raiders, and it lists Brock Purdy as the quarterback 1, and then at quarterback 2, it says Trey Lance or Sam Darnold.
Yeah. So is Kyle going to say who the backup quarterback is more than 90 minutes before the Steeler game when he has to turn in the 46-man roster? One of them would be, if they're both on the roster, one of them will be the emergency quarterback, right? Dressed out.
But who not can't play unless the first 2 guys are hurt.
So is Kyle going to name a backup quarterback before then? Or are these guys going to be or? Because my theory last week was we're going to spend all this time talking about the battle, and there's going to be no answer until they take the field against the Steelers.
What's your prediction on that? Darnold or Lance? Week 1. Number 2.
I said I think the other day I said I think Trey starts against the Raiders. Boy, I don't know. I mean,
it's all predicated on what we see this summer.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the games.
Right now, I think it's tied. Or at least really close.
Too.
But
I do too.
Kyle
may
not
very
look
close.
at it that way.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Might not look at it that way.
And we're not privy to those thoughts. Let's hit a couple supers. Ricky says Brock is going to have a lot of pressure as the starter, especially if Trey builds momentum in the preseason. How many losses will it take for Kyle to force a switch at the position? Love the content. Appreciate you, Ricky. I don't know if it's straight losses. It's more about performance. Like what if Brock Purdy throws for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Niners defense maybe they don't have Nick Bosa week 1, and what if Kenny Pickett throws for 300 yards and they run for 200, and this number 1 defense doesn't look like the number 1 defense, and you know what I mean? It's all predicated on how does Brock play, not just the result of the game. So I think that's a big part of it. Fish and Chips is when will Kyle Shanahan become the real deal? When he wins the Super Bowl, I guess, in some people's eyes. I mean, I think he's the real deal now. I think Kyle Shanahan's a top 5, top 6, top 7 NFL head coach, depending on how you have him ranked. If they fired him tomorrow, 3 other coaches would get fired just in the idea from their owners that they might be able to attract Kyle to go to their spots. So I really believe that. Double B Studio says we're going to see what Trey can do in the preseason. Yeah, no question about that. Carlo, good to see you. He says the fact that Darnold isn't head and shoulders over Lance looks bad on Darnold. A 5-year starter should easily be beating a quarterback with 4 starts in practice. I agree. Which tells me that Lance is better than Darnold. But it's not about who's better. It's going to be about who does Kyle trust more to operate his offense. And I think that answer is going to be shown through the preseason reps in the games. Double B Studio says we're going to see if Jimmy is trash post Kyle. How's Jimmy going to do with Vegas?
Jimmy was traded for a first before Kyle.
That's true.
Was drafted in the 2nd round.
Had a great year his final year in college. Is Jimmy going to be better than Carr or worse than Carr?
I mean, his team is not great. I think worse.
I think he's going to stand in the pocket more. And I think he's going to, in some ways he'll be better, but I'm not a Carr fan. I'm really not. Fish and Chips says disagree. Kyle Shanahan is a stakes coach, not graded class. Okay. I'm not sure if I know what that means, but
he did give you 2 pounds. So,
what is that? What's the conversion?
Not American. I don't know.
Is a single pound better than a single dollar?
I got to think, yeah, I got to think that's like $1.15, right?
All right, that's okay. Fish and Chips is a made man as far as I'm concerned.
$1.20. Sorry, 2. No, it's $2.55. Oh,
look at that! It's better than $1. 2 pounds is better than $2. I'll remember that. Okay, I did a video, or I'm putting out a video. My son's working on it right now. I already cut it, but he's putting highlights and stuff of the defensive end. To me, defensive end depth is the 49ers' issue. They lost 1,331 snaps when Ebukam, Willis, and Amenahue left when they signed Javon Hargrave. I love the addition of Hargrave, guy, but I also know that, unlike backup offensive linemen, backup defensive linemen play. And I asked Chris Kasarik about it. I said, Chris, are you going to play your 1s more than you played your 1s last year because your 2s and 3s maybe are not quite as talented as last year's 2s and 3s? And he's like, no. He's like, I'm going to play my guys in a rotation. Otherwise, my starters won't make it to the playoffs. So based on what you've seen, how do you feel about the guys who are replacing Ebukam, Amenahue, and Willis? That would be Cleveland Farrell, and then however you want to group it. Alex Barrett, Kerry Hyder, Austin Bryant, Robert Beal. How do you feel about the Niners?
Why don't you mention
non-Bosa? Drake Jackson as well. Yeah. But how do you feel about the non-starting defensive ends?
Well, you and I talked about this not long ago, and I said I wouldn't spend much time adding there. I said I wouldn't spend much money adding there. But I think and you said you would. I think you've probably been proven right since there are already some guys who can't practice, right? And they already added Taco Charlton. If healthy, I like the group, actually. I think Drake and Furl as your other pass rusher combination. I think Kinlaw as not the guy who has to play a ton of snaps. Hyder, we know, is proven, right? Like we know that he can help you. And Bosa, Armstead, Hargrave, Drake Jackson / Furl, I think is a good lineup. But I think you were right when you said it a few weeks ago. They probably need more depth there. And I think it's proving to be the case now.
Do you like these names? Who do you like? These are the free agents. Now, Justin Houston signed, Ngakwe signed. But Jadeveon Clowney is available. Yeah. Melvin Ingram, available. Jason Pierre-Paul is available. Robert Quinn is available. Carlos Dunlap's available. And Alton Robinson, who played at Syracuse, has a little bit of a knee problem, I believe, with Seattle. He looked good in Seattle, but then they just released him going into camp. So I think he's having complications from his knee issues. So maybe he's not an option. And you never know about the health or the conditioning of any of these guys. For all I know, these guys could all be sitting on the couch eating bonbons, and they could all be 30, 40 pounds overweight. But I mean, this is just based on what we know about them in the past. Any of those names excite you, or any of those guys would you be intrigued by any of those guys being added to this mix?
Oh yeah. I like that's the beauty of Kasarik and this team being so talented is when you get added to the mix, you don't have to do a ton, right? Like Ndamukong Suh last year, who's a Kasarik guy, going to the Eagles he didn't have to do a ton. They had a really good pass rush. So like of that group that you named, Clowney would intrigue me the most, I think. How about you?
I like Clowney. He didn't miss a single tackle last year. And in 2 seasons with the Browns, he had 65 tackles, 11 sacks, 33 hits on the quarterback, 15 tackles for loss. I like him. I like Jadeveon Clowney.
What does he cost?
He's going to cost the most of those guys, probably. Yeah. I kind of like Jason Pierre-Paul, but I know he hasn't done a whole lot, and he's 34. He played 14 games last year, only had 3 sacks and 3 hits on the quarterback. Ingram's interesting. He's 33. He played in 17 games last year with Miami. He had 6 sacks, 10 hits on the quarterback. Robert Quinn didn't play at all with the Eagles. I'm not sure what's going on there, but he didn't play. He's 33. He played 13 games. He had 1 sack and 5 quarterback hits. Dunlap had a decent year with Kansas City. There's also trade options. What do you think of these trade options? Boogie Basham from Buffalo, Bryce Huff from the Jets, Chase Young or Montez Sweat with the Commanders. The one that makes a lot of sense to me is Jerry Hughes with the Texans, who's 35 years old, but last year he made 16 starts. He had 9 sacks. There's also Clavon Chason, the former LSU defensive end who was drafted by David Caldwell, not Trent Baalke. And you look at Jacksonville, they got Trayvon Walker, Arden Key, Josh Allen, Dajuan Smoot. I mean, they got a bunch of other options there. And then there's Dallas, who has Dorrance Armstrong and Dallas has a couple of young guys I'm looking for at the cutdown. Either Fehoko, who played at San Jose State. Did you do San Jose State last year?
Yeah, he's a big guy, right?
Junior Fehoko.
He's an interior lineman. And they had
he's interior? I thought he was an end.
How do they? I mean, he's not tall.
270.
He's 270?
270, 275 maybe.
Yeah,
maybe you're right.
That's how he played, kind of he would be, I think maybe things have changed, but I thought he was like if he's going to play in a 4-3, an interior lineman.
Yeah. But any of those trade candidates, I mean, I love Montez Sweat. I mean, if the Commanders wanted Trey Lance, I would say, hey, give me Montez Sweat in a 5th round pick and we'll talk.
Yeah. I think anybody, and like most of these guys fit that bill. Give me physical traits and Kasarik, and you're not asking them to do a ton. And I think any of that works. So then the question becomes, what does it cost? Right? Like, what is Chase Young going to cost? Probably more than you want to pay.
A lot. $17 million.
Yeah, that's not, like, to me, that's not a realistic option. But, I mean, I hate to make it so fundamental, but I think it's pretty fundamental. Give me talent. Look at this group of defensive linemen that you're playing next to. Bosa, Armstead, Hargrave. We're not asking. You don't have to.
You're going to get singled.
You don't have to reach your potential that we thought you had when you were drafted in the 1st round. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
So, I would lean with cost effective with whoever is cost effective is where I would lean with that group.
Yeah. I definitely think I want to see at least one more guy. Mark Salas. Mark, sorry, I missed your chat here. He says, Kyle has made the focus about his play design, so his quarterbacks don't get the credit. Just keep Trey. I don't. Has he made the focus about his play design? I don't know if he's made I know that people talk about his play design, but I don't know that that's on Kyle. I think that's on how people have reacted to Kyle. Do you feel like Kyle has devalued the quarterback?
Well, yeah, but
anything that he's said or done?
Yes, but oh no, not because of what he said. I mean, I just think his offense is almost designed to be interchangeable at the one position where you can't be interchangeable, or it works that way, right? Um, I don't think it's what he. I don't think he set out to like let me find a way to devalue the quarterback, or I don't think he says things to get the attention on himself over his quarterback. But he is. How about this for you, Larry? There are only two guys in the NFL that have called plays for more consecutive seasons than Kyle Shanahan.
Wow. Who are they? Andy
Andy
Reid.
Reid coming into his 25th year, and Josh McDaniels his 18th. For Shanahan, it's year 16 in a row calling plays. Sean Payton is entering his 16th season, but obviously not consecutive because he missed a year. But he's been calling plays for a long time without a franchise quarterback. Now, Matt Ryan was a franchise quarterback, but Andy basically had two, right, with McNabb and Mahomes. McDaniels obviously had Brady. Kyle is very unlike those guys in terms of he hasn't done it mostly with one or two guys. So he's pretty unique in that way.
It is interesting, though, because like people forget now that Brock Purdy's playing well, that when Brock Purdy went into the Miami game, or I guess into the next week, into the Tampa game, or whatever his first start was, I think it was Tampa, non-Jimmy quarterbacks in San Francisco under Kyle were 9-29. 9-29. So it's not like, hey, anybody can win in this system. Or at least they found the guys that couldn't win in Kyle's system.
Yeah.
Mark Salas says, Larry, you didn't address my other super chat. See what happened, Mark? I didn't address it, and then you gave me $2 more, and then I went back and addressed it. It's all by design.
Complaints should cost more.
No, Mark, I apologize, brother. I appreciate you donating to the show, though. Ricky Williams says, F them picks. Go all in and get the other Bosa. Ooh. How awesome would the Niners be with Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa? Who's the better Bosa?
Nick.
I think so too.
Who's the better combo, the Watts or the Bosas?
The Bosas.
Yeah, I think so.
Though I love TJ Watt.
Well, I don't know. You know what?
TJ Watt at his best and JJ Watt at his best. They just weren't at their best at the same time.
No, but I think the ranking right now would go. Tell me if I'm wrong. Nick Bosa. Well, no. JJ Watt, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, Joey Bosa.
Yeah, TJ Watt though on certain days has looked amazing. Amazing.
I'm just saying the Watts might be the better combo because I think Joey, partly because of injuries, is probably fourth on that list.
Yeah.
Like JJ's going to the Hall. Nick obviously has the potential to. TJ does have the potential to. Doesn't feel like Joey's on that track.
Joey is so special, though.
Yeah, I know. I don't.
They're all really good. Ron Holder says, I think Armstead is going to see some time at defensive end. Okay, I could see that. Fish and Chips says, Kyle Shanahan, 6 out of 7 years, he's used 3 quarterbacks. Asking about play calling. I mean, his offense produces points. You know, and Purdy produced 33 points a game, which was the most in the NFL last year. Last year, I think the Chiefs led the NFL scoring 29 a game. The Niners under Purdy scored 33 a game. All right, couple last ones, and then we'll say goodbye, Guy. And I appreciate you coming on. I love having you on, man, and you're really, really good. When, by the way, is your first play-by-play gig this year? When are we going to get to see you? Do you have one scheduled yet, or do you have a rough idea when you're going to do some college?
Yeah, well, I'll be the Pac-12 football farewell tour is underway.
Wow.
And so I will
the Pac-4 or Pac-3 or whatever.
Well, this year there's still 12 this year, Larry. So my first thing will be week 1 of the college football season. I'll be doing what's called the Pac-12 After Dark. It's the Pac-12 for all of you with Pac-12 Network. It's the post-game show. My first game I think is going to be week 3. It's a Cal football game. But I'll update you. I'll let you know when the
let me know. We'll promote it for you and get people watching you.
Yeah.
Especially if it's Cal, we're going to have to promote it. Nick Bosa's holdout. Let's couple last ones and we'll let you go. Nick Bosa's holdout. where are you? That we've usually in a holdout, either somebody complains about the team complains about the player, and there's something about the player's greedy, the player's lazy, the player. You're not hearing that from at all. But then you also on the other end, you'll hear this. Well, there's a chance they trade him, and there's a chance he won't be here, and there's a chance he'll sit out the whole year, and you're not hearing that either. And my theory is that the Niners have agreed already to the Bosa terms, that it's going to be like $33 million, and that they know what he means to them. They know what kind of condition he's in, and they don't want him. They really don't want him to practice Thursday and Friday against the Raiders. And I don't think they want him in that game at all. My prediction is it's going to get done between August 15th and August 30th, which would be at least another week from today. I would say, or August 15th and August 20th, somewhere in that little window, 5-day window. I think that's when it gets done, and I think the Niners don't. I think they're just hedging because they know that anybody could go out for the year in any of these games or any of these joint practices, and they know what it would mean to their Super Bowl chances if Bosa went down. I think they're being cautious with Bosa, not wanting to expose him to injury. I believe the deal's done. What's your belief on Bosa? Because we're not hearing any of the normal holdout acrimony or verbal back and forth.
But that is typical for the Niners.
John Lynch is very classy. He keeps, said he wanted him to say keep it private.
Yeah, they've always done that. Remember, part of it was John and Kyle tested Jed when in the interview process, like, hey, there better not be any leaks through all of this. So I think that's par for the course with them. I don't think a deal is already done. And the reason I don't think a deal is already done is because the Bosa's a pretty hard line when it comes to negotiation. And the Niners, I think, are pretty hard line when it comes to negotiation. And so when you have two hard line parties, I don't know if you agree with that premise, but when you have two hard line parties with, what do we have here, Larry? 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks or 5 weeks, 4.5 weeks?
Yeah.
Until the opener. The opener is on
September 10th.
Like,
we got about a month.
Yeah. 1,
4 weeks.
2, 3, 4, 4.5 weeks. That's generally not when two hardline parties reach an agreement, I don't think. So I'd be surprised if the deal is done. Now, I do think you're right. The other part about, not wanting him to play. Would you like to have him signed and just around for your third preseason game against the Chargers when Joey Bosa's here? I mean, I don't think that really matters, but maybe. Are you trying to keep him out of a game? I mean, John Lynch did say he thinks you need 3 weeks before the season starts, ideally, right? When he spoke at the beginning of camp, he would like 3 weeks. He thinks that's what a player needs. So if we go 3 weeks back from the 10th, that probably puts us right in your window. 1, 2, 3 of, what'd you say, like the 20th, the 21st, somewhere in that range?
15th to the 20th of August is when I predicted he would sign at the beginning of camp, just because I think that they absolutely didn't want him on the field Thursday and Friday this week.
Yeah. I think I actually agree with your end game. Do you agree that they're both hardline parties?
Totally. Oh yeah. I mean, we saw it with the Joey Bosa deal.
Yeah.
And this isn't, and their dad played in the NFL.
He knows the draft.
Yeah. These guys, couple last supers and then one last question here. Mark Salas says, why hasn't the 49ers, Kyle, had a franchise quarterback yet? They traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. They felt like they wanted to build up their team instead of going into the Mahomes draft. They felt like it was a hard draft to handicap. History tells us they're right as far as there's a lot of first-round busts. Now, in hindsight, they should have gone with Mahomes. I think everybody knows that. But that was their opportunity. Then they traded for Jimmy. Jimmy is a very good quarterback. They were hoping to catch lightning in the bottle. It didn't happen. And Jimmy topped out, basically, and I think they've been trying to separate for a few years with Jimmy. Now they've gotten Purdy. They've invested in Lance. I think that's it. I mean, I think Mark, I think we all know that's kind of the way it's all shaken out at this point. Mark has this one for you, Guy. Guys, anyone in your family bald? And Cosmo says, Guy has more hair in his head than my whole family put together.
Click on the one that accused me of a comb over a bald head. Can you find that one?
Where is it?
I want to react to that. They say it's your mother's father.
Right, your mother's father.
And my mother's father had a fantastic head of hair. He's no longer with us, but he had a very thick head of hair. Somebody said I can see a lot of scalp under the comb over. Okay, that is not true.
He's talking about me probably, because I throw a little mousse, and I'm 53, and my mother's father had hair until his 60s, but it was definitely thinner.
Oh well,
so I have to wait around for that.
I assume nothing, Larry. I expect nothing, and I stress about it as much as the next guy. So,
all right, who is? Oh, by the way, I got to mention this anecdote. So, Guy and I are standing at practice together. We're getting this, watch the one-on-ones, the receivers going against the corners, and Ambry Thomas is going against Juwan Jennings. And JJ, I thought, kind of beat him off the line, and Ambry did everything illegal. He grabbed him, he hooked him, he pulled his jersey from behind as JJ was running away.
Ref was out of flags.
No flag. Nothing drew a flag. And there was an official standing there, I believe. Just, I don't know what the heck he's looking at. And then, because he held JJ so many different ways, when the ball finally arrived, he was standing right next to JJ, and he then successfully batted it out of the air. And then he proceeded to talk trash to Juwan Jennings. And instead of Jennings yelling, "Hey, man, you held me," he goes, "That's the first time you've beat me in 3 years." That was a good line.
And what did Ambry say?
I don't know, but Ambry was talking a lot of mess.
Yeah. Ambry said, "You
I didn't hear
never
what he
beat
said.
me on a go ball."
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah, that was good.
Ambry needs a big preseason for sure. All right, last question for you, and we appreciate you hanging with us. And we've gone 15 minutes longer than I told you we were going to go.
That's how it goes.
Third best team in the NFC. I put this out on Twitter the other day. The NFC is a 2-team conference in my mind. It's the Niners and the Eagles and the Niners. I've done deep dives on every team in the conference. I don't see a third team that scares me even slightly. If I said to you, who's a team or two that could become in the NFL, teams that finish last, finish first, and that kind of thing. It's year to year. I get it. You get it. But that all being said, I still don't. I think there's some teams that are a year or two away, and there's some teams that maybe are a year or two, behind, kind of like, teams like Tampa that were in the Super Bowl, and some of these teams that are pretty good from a few years ago. But I don't see this year's. I see Niners and Eagles. Who's the third best team in the NFC?
I mean, to me, it's got to be Dallas. Even though I think they are. I don't think you're winning the Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy. I don't think you're winning the NFC with Mike McCarthy.
Do you know that Mike McCarthy is the leading candidate in Vegas to be the first head coach fired?
I didn't know that, but I am here to tell you that after his first game against the Rams, I watched the game and said, I've seen enough. Mike McCarthy should be fired. And I think there's only been a mounting heap of evidence going back to when he admitted that he lied to Jerry Jones in the interview process when he told him he watched every single play from the previous season or some junk like that. So he's changed coordinators now, right? Kellen Moore's out. Kellen's in LA with the Chargers, but they were still by far and away next best when it comes to point differential last year, part because their defense is good. Like Micah Parsons is incredible. And the fact is, Larry, the 49ers beat the Cowboys by a touchdown last year, 19-12. Dallas had the ball late with a chance to tie it. Not a great chance, but a chance. And the Niners were pretty lucky that Tony Pollard got hurt that day. So do I think the Niners are more real contenders than the Cowboys? Yes, absolutely. Do I think the Cowboys and Niners, the Niners have the ultimate advantage in that game? Kyle over McCarthy? Yes, I do. But it was close. I think it's easy to forget that it was not a stressless game. The problem for Dallas is they're just, You know, they've got no shot at a first round bye probably. And they're not going to, if you win the NFC, you're going to get to host Dallas if you end up in that game again. So
I think you can run it on Dallas.
And you can run it on that. Yeah. But again, like they were on the road. Pollard gets hurt. Pollard was killing the Niners, and it's a 7-point game. So I think you gotta, I do not give Dallas, I think they are flawed, ultimately very flawed with McCarthy, and Dak can be beat, but I think they're the third best team in the NFC. I don't think it's Seattle. I'm not as high. I think a lot of people are high on Detroit. I'm not. I mean, Detroit's fine. They're 9-8. That's what they are.
They're a couple years away.
There's a whole lot of like golf. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, the Rams were horrendous and still found a way to win 5 games. I'm a believer in McVay. I think most people are.
Yeah.
I think they'll be a little better. I think Seattle, you know who never sucks? Pete Carroll. Generally, like
John Schneider's a great GM.
So they'll be tough, but the Niners kind of, the Niners can.
They don't stop the run either, though. Seattle doesn't stop the run.
Niners can beat them.
All right, brother. Good to see you. You're not headed to Vegas though but you'll be.
I'll be grading throws. I'll be sensing throws and grading.
Will you be back in camp next week?
Yeah, I guess probably Tuesday.
Yeah. Fable JVC says a lot of scalps showing through that comb over, and then he basically said, if Guy was talking about my comment, it was directed towards Larry. I don't know if I don't think mine's a comb over. I think I just have a little too much mousse. I'm 53. I got.
Well, what you want? What are you using,
enough
Larry?
Going.
If I may ask,
a little mousse.
What is that? Is it clear or is it white or what is?
It's kind of white. It's white.
Yeah, and is it a strong hold? I'm guessing.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
You might want to try something that allows that keeps all the threads from that keeps all that keeps them separated a little bit.
Like what are you talking about? What do you use?
Well, I use
you don't use anything.
No, cocktail. I use a couple products. I use a pomade plus a little holder. But
gel? Are you suggesting gel?
No, I'm not suggesting gel. Gel, I think would have I'm just saying something that you can you run your fingers through what you've got there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
See, but you can kind of see.
No, I'll defend you on that. Yeah.
Not a comb over.
No, not a comb over.
Though it is thinning. It is thinning, Fable. What can I say? But what can I say? I've got my wife on a long-term deal. Like Nick Bosa.
Lifetime deal?
She's got a great signing bonus. And today is the 8th of August. Yesterday was our 24th wedding anniversary. I have two kids in their 20s. All I can say is, I wish I had different genes. Guy, good to see you, brother. We'll see you at camp next week.
Yeah.
You're fantastic. Anything you want to promote? I mean, we got 540 people hanging in the room right now. Tell people where they can find your guys' pod and how often you guys go, and tell people about it.
Haberman and Middlecoff on the YouTube channel. And wherever you get your podcast, but you can just go to that YouTube channel, Haberman and Middlecoff. It's a mouthful. You can actually go youtube.com/hampod @hampod. No one ever does that. I don't know why I mentioned it, but anyway, go check it out. You've been doing incredible work. The velocity with which you have built this channel up, Larry, is awesome. And we're just trying to keep pace with you. So go check it out. Go subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it.
Who's your sponsors again? Shout them out.
Tito's Handmade Vodka, baby. We are. If you need Tito's, Larry, let me know. I've got a lot of Tito's. So
we'll get this. The other 2 nights ago, wasn't last night, but 2 nights ago, took my lovely bride out to dinner at Vada V in downtown Walnut Creek. You been to Vada V?
No.
Very good restaurant. And I asked for a Stoli Greyhound, which is grapefruit juice and my typical favorite vodka. I kind of like Stoli. They said, "Sir, we don't have Stoli." And I said, "Well, can I see your vodka list?" And they showed it to me, and they had Kettle One, they had Grey Goose, they had a couple others, and I saw Tito's. And because of you, my friend, I said, "You know what? They're good enough for Ham, good enough for Krueger. Give me a little Tito's."
Love to hear it.
Tito's.
Thank you for your support,
Greyhound, because of you. because of you.
Tito's Greyhound. All right, I like the drink.
Yeah, yeah. I need grapefruit juice has a little sweetness to it. It was a little tart, but it cuts the vodka, and I had a couple of them over dinner, and just in a perfect spot. Just in a perfect spot.
I gotta get me some pig in a pickle. I've still not been.
Yes. Oh my God. Hit Pig in a Pickle. Go say hi to Damon. Go say hi to Mary. Emeryville, Corte Madera. You're probably closer to Emeryville.
Yeah.
They're in the Emeryville Public Marketplace.
Oh, okay.
Phenomenal barbecue. You'll love it. You'll absolutely love it.
Barbecue.
Tell them I sent you.
I will. And people send me barbecue wrecks. Although I don't need them. I got Pig in a Pickle. I'll go try it. Yeah, I've been looking for barbecue.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a bunch of different barbecue places, but Pig in a Pickle obviously is fantastic, and they're my absolute favorite in Northern California. Absolutely the best. So
good. Okay.
All right, brother. Good to see you.
Thanks, Larry. I'll see you soon, man.
Yep, Guy Haberman right there. He's really good. Check out Haberman and Middlecoff, and their podcast is outstanding. They do it on YouTube. They also, wherever you find your podcasts. He's really, really good, and he was at camp. One thing I like people who go out and watch, because if you watch, then you know. And if you know, then I want to listen to you. And I think you guys are probably like me, right? You want to listen to people that you know and that know something. At the end of the day, you don't want to have somebody, well, I'm talking tough about the Niners. Really? And you did what? You watched what? Well, I went one day. What? Well, you went to camp one day and you're talking high and mighty? Give me the guy who's been there at least, 4 or 5 days. And Guy's there all the time. So I would definitely, and John's a former football scout with the Eagles and has a great eye for talent and even for great eye for football talent. But okay, there you go. 2 drink minimum. Tip your waitresses. I'll be at the Chuckle Hut in Dayton on the 19th. All right, let's do this. I'm going to hit the chat for a couple minutes and read some of your chats. But first, let me thank my sponsor, Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. As I said, they're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. This is their spot in Marin. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. And that is actually, when I say that, people say, well, do they actually run out? Yeah, they do run out. Real barbecue places run out because you don't just make this brisket in a second. They smoke the brisket in the smoker for like 14 hours. So when they run out, it's game over. But here they are in Marin County. Check it out. I'll be back in a second.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
All right, coming down the home stretch on the Krueg Show. I always laugh when I see Pasquale. I'm going to be at New York Style Sausage on Monday for a little lunch, and we had a little contest, and a couple of our winners will be joining us at New York Style Italian Sausage Plant for a little tour of the plant and lunch, and we'll put the video out on the channel later next week. So that I'm looking forward to. Monday, the Niners off day, I'll be in Santa Clara, right there at New York Style Italian Sausage. Okay, the depth chart is out. I want to hit a couple of these comments too, but the depth chart is out for the Raider game for the Niners, and it's interesting. Okay, this is how it looks right now. Brock Purdy is your starter at quarterback. That's not a shock. And by the way, he's not going to start that game. Digital Drew says, get Pasquale on the stream. Oh, we will. We absolutely will. How great will Pasquale be on the stream? But we'll definitely do some interviews of Pasquale as well. But yeah, we got to get Pasquale on the stream. But Brock Purdy is listed as a starter, but he's not going to start. And I don't know who's going to start in Vegas. It's going to be Trey Lance or Sam Darnold, most likely. I would start Trey Lance. Trey Lance, to me, looks like the best quarterback outside of Brock Purdy. I think he's better than Sam Darnold and better than Brandon Allen. I'm a little surprised that Trey's improved as fast as he has, considering he hasn't played. But to me, that's incredibly encouraging. So, yeah, I would start Trey Lance. And I'm eager to see how he practices against the Raiders, how he plays in this game and the two subsequent preseason games. And more importantly, the one thing I'm wondering about is how, and what I mentioned to Guy, how will the 49ers respond to Trey Lance's performance? What if he plays great? Does that mean they might consider starting him week 1 over Brock Purdy? Could Trey Lance do anything in the preseason to win the starting job? I would probably say no, but you never know. And I will say this, I absolutely believe if he plays really well, the Niners will get much better offers for him in a trade. Then the question is, if he plays really well, will the Niners say, we don't want to trade him? He's playing really well. He looks great. That's our guy. Trey's our guy. Or are they going to commit to Brock and say, we'll take a second-round pick and who knows, Montez Sweat. We'll take a third-round pick and Michael Mayer. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I have no idea what the Niners are. The Niners, they're committed to Brock right now, but how committed are they? They like Brock, but how much do they like him? That's the part we don't really know. Shanahan just called Brock Purdy the real deal. That is a very high compliment from Kyle Shanahan. But is that just something he's saying? Or does he really believe that Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback and that he's got Darnold as his backup and Brandon Allen as his third? And if somebody offers something they think is fair value for Trey, they'll pull the trigger. We don't know. We absolutely don't know. And that's what makes this whole thing so intriguing. And you know what it's going to be? It's like if he plays well and they get offers and they pull the trigger on a trade, my God, the Trey fans are going to be absolutely crushed. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways this thing could go. Or then the other question is this: if they keep him, they better be willing. If they get offered a high pick, let's just say he plays really well, and somebody says, "Here's a second-round pick and a good player," and they say, "No, we're keeping him." Well, then they better keep him. Be willing to pay him next year. They better be in this thing for the long haul. If they know that they're not in on Trey next year because of the money, and he plays well in the preseason and they get a good offer, shouldn't they move him in that situation? I don't know. There's a lot of different ways this thing can be sliced and analyzed, and there's a lot of different ways to look at it. We don't know how they feel about Trey. We don't know how they feel about Brock. We don't know how they feel about Darnold. You know what I mean? We know they like all of these guys. They're on the roster. But we don't know how much. And we don't know how committed or what the master plan is at the quarterback position. And that's what makes this preseason juicy as hell. This is not only one of the biggest stories in the NFL, this could have long-term ramifications for multiple teams. Otherwise, on the depth chart, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are the starting receivers. Not a surprise. Kittle's the starting tight end. Left to right on the O-line is Trent, Banks, Brendel, Burford, and McKivitz. McCaffrey and Juice in the backfield. First team offense. First team D is listed as Armstead, Hargrave, Drake Jackson, who did not practice today, and I really doubt he'll start on Sunday. Cleveland Farrell. Oren Burks is the third linebacker in the base. Not the rookies. Oren Burks, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Charvarius Ward and Demo Lenore on the corners. Isaiah Oliver as the nickel back, if they go with the nickel back. Tayshaun Gibson and Talanoa Hufanga as the starting safety tandem. Mitch Wishnowsky, your number one punter. Jake Moody, not Zane Gonzalez, your number one kicker. By the way, Jake Moody today in practice hit a 58-yard field goal. He then came back minutes later, hit a 60-yard field goal that may have cleared the uprights if it had been 68 yards. That guy has an unfreaking believable leg. I mean, I'm a Robbie Gould fan, and I was not a fan of moving off of Robbie Gould, but Jake Moody's leg, the Niners, as soon as they cross midfield, they're going to be in field goal territory. Almost. I mean, Jake Moody might be able to make a 70-yarder. He has got a huge leg. Not necessarily outdoors, but indoors, I bet you he could hit from 70. He has got a huge leg. Maybe the biggest leg I've ever seen. He's like reminds me of Seabass. He just absolutely kicks the hell out of it. All right, second team. Second team receivers are Juwan Jennings and Ray McLeod. Second team running backs are Elijah Mitchell, Jack Coletto. Second team quarterback, they listed Trey Lance. Second team offensive line, left to right, Jalen Moore at left tackle, Nick Zakel at left guard, Keith Ishmael at center, John Feliciano at right guard, Matt Pryor at right tackle, Charlie Warner is your second team tight end. And I don't even know who makes this. Does the PR department make this? Does the coaching staff make this? I don't know. Second team D. The front four is Barrett, Alex Barrett, and Kerry Hyder at ends. Javon Kinlaw and Kevin Givens at tackles. Second team linebackers, Curtis Robinson, Flanagan Fowles, and Marcelino. Second team DBs, Ambry Thomas, Samuel Womack. Second team nickel is A.J. Parker. Second team safeties, Jair Brown, George Odom. Second team kicker, Zane Gonzalez. There you go. And then everybody else is on the third team. That's Danny Gray, Ronnie Bell. Who else is on the third team? Cameron Latou, who dropped 2 balls today. 2 balls, one from Lance, one from Purdy. Cameron Latou, somebody needs to tell Cameron Latou there's no scholarship in the NFL. I went through the 53-man roster and did my own cuts based on what I've seen. And I have 3 quarterbacks, Purdy, Lance, and Darnold, 5 running backs, CMC, Mitchell, Mason, TDP, and Juszczyk, 5 running backs / fullbacks. I've got 5, only 5. 3 tight ends. Sometimes they keep 4, but I've got Kittle, Willis, and Latou. So I got Charlie Warner and Dwelly being cut. 5 wide receivers, the same as last year. Ayuk, Debo, Juwan, Danny Gray, Ray McLeod. 8 O-linemen, Trent Williams, Banks, Brendel, Burford, McKivitz, and then 3 backups, Feliciano, Jalen Moore, and Nick Zakel. But if you ask me, do I think the third swing tackle is going to be Jalen Moore? I think the third swing tackle is going to be coming from another team. I think they'll trade for a swing tackle. 3 specialists, Moody, Wishnowsky, and Tabor Pepper. I've got 10 D linemen. Bosa, Armstead, Hargrave, Jackson are my 1s. Farrell, Kinlaw, Givens, and Austin Bryant are my 2s. Spencer Wagee and Taco Charlton rounding it out. Those are my 10 D linemen. My 6 linebackers are Warner, Greenlaw, McCrary Ball, D. Winters, Jalen Graham, and Curtis Robinson. So I'm in my world, I'm either cutting or trading a guy who the Niners have starting in Oren Burks at the cutdown. My 4 safeties are Afanga, Gibson, Jair Brown, George Odom. And my 6 corners are Mooney Ward, Demo Lenore, Isaiah Oliver, Sammy Womack, Deshaun Jameson, and Darrell Luter Jr. And if Luter's got to be on the pup, I should say, PUP, physically unable to perform, then I've got Ambry Thomas. So what does that mean? That means, and then I have 5 players. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I've got 5 players that I think the 49ers might be able to trade at the cutdown for something. And that would be Brandon Allen, Jack Coletto, because of his fullback status. He had a real nice catch today. Oren Burks, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, who I think both would start for the Raiders if the season were tomorrow. I think the Niners have literally linebackers they may cut that are better than the Raiders linebackers who start. And then Zane Gonzalez. I think all those guys could get picks in return. My cut list includes Kalen Laburn. Ronald Awatt was cut today, so I'll put McNichols on the cut list. Chris Conley, Willie Snead, Ronnie Bell, Tay Martin. It kills me, but Tay Martin, Isaiah Winstead, Daz Newsome, Corey Luciano, Ilm Manning, Alfredo Gutierrez, Keith Ishmael, Leroy Watson, Troy Fumagalli, Trey Swilling, Anthony Averett, A.J. Parker, Matt Pryor, Jason Poe, Quantrez Knight. It kills me because I think Quantrez is a player. Tazimo, the linebacker, Dalen Hayes, T.Y. McGill. That another one kills me. I think he's really good. Charlie Warner, Robert Beal, Joey Fisher, Miles Hartsfield, Taylor Hawkins, Marlon Davidson, who also looks really good, and Kerry Hyder. A lot of people would say, you have Kerry Hyder cut and you have Spencer Wagee making it. I do. I think Spencer Wagee's going to make the team. We'll see. Clarsard says Ambry or Quantrez Knight is better than Ambry Thomas. He may be. Quantrez has looked good in this camp, by the way. He really has. Okay, a couple other. Carlos says this team is just too stacked. I know. There's a lot of good players that are going to be cut. But the Niners may be able to get as many as 3 or 4, maybe even 5 7th-round picks for some of those guys. I think they could definitely get a 7th-round pick for Brandon Allen. I definitely think they could get a 7th-round pick for Oren Burks. I definitely think they can get a 7th-round pick for Zane Gonzalez. As far as Flanagan, Fowles, and Coletto, maybe not. We'll see. Pete Gorman says, who's going to the practice squad? That's a good question. I think it's 16 deep, and you can pull guys off your practice squad all year long. I would say the practice squad will include Kalen Laburn, Coletto if he makes it through, probably Ronnie Bell and Tay Martin if they don't get claimed. Ilm Manning has impressed me quite a bit. Maybe Jason Poe, Quantrez Knight, T.Y. McGill, Robert Beal, Joey Fisher. Yeah, that's maybe Marlon Davidson. I don't know. It's that's tough. Cosmo says we need a spreadsheet. Yeah, seriously. Digital Drew says no to Ambry. He needs to go. Not NFL quality defensive back. He looked to be a quality defensive back 2 years ago. Last year, not so much. Dan Eberhardt. Hey, Dan. He says Deshaun Jameson has been incredible. Amazing value for him. He has been. He is good. That's what makes me really excited about the Niners in some ways is that the emergence of Samuel Womack and Deshaun Jameson. I think Deshaun Jameson and Womack could start. That's how good they are. I think they're starting caliber players. That's how deep they are at the corner. That's a great sign because the old coach used to say, when you run out of corners, or the key to pass D is pass D. When you run out of corners, you run out of corners. James Wilson says free Trey Lance. Does Trey Lance want to be freed? Mark Dandridge, or Dan Ridge, sorry. I gave you an extra D in there. He says Kinlaw has to play. Kinlaw will play. All the backup D linemen play. James Wilson says live and die. He says he wants a trade. Wait, I'm going backwards here on some of these. He says live and die with Brock and trade. Or trade Trey. He says trade the man already. Or maybe he's saying Trey is 2.5 with Sam Darnold. Oh, this is it. His first one. He says Trey isn't the number 2 quarterback. In my eyes, he is. So that's kind of how I see it. Digital Drew says, surprised they called Trey number 2 this early. What does that do for the rest of camp for that battle? Teams start calling about Darnold. Supposedly Green Bay may trade something for Darnold. Green Bay's backup quarterback behind Jordan Love is Sean Clifford and Danny Etling. So you may be able to get a pick for Sam Darnold if you wanted to go with Trey Lance and Brandon Allen. I could be convinced that that's the way to go. Sam Darnold at times looks really good, but at times he doesn't. So this is going to be a huge preseason for Sam Darnold. Super chat here from Sean. He says if Trey plays well enough and they don't accept any and accept offers, that's signaling to Brock they aren't committed to him. Depends what those offers are, Sean, but you're probably right. It's one thing. That's the thing. If you'd asked me, and I said this all throughout the offseason. I said this at the beginning of the offseason. I said, my prediction on the offseason is based on the way the Niners are talking, that they're going to recommit to Brock Purdy and move off of Trey Lance. And I think Trey Lance was available. They said they were taking offers. They cleared enough room draft weekend to move him if they wanted to, but they're not going to give him away. They know what they invested in a trade for Trey Lance. They're not trading him for a conditional 5th-round pick. Now, what if he plays really well in this preseason? We know they'll get better offers, but they also may change their mind about moving him. Ron Holder says, Larry, when's the effing lazy shirt coming? It's here. It's arrived. You can go right now on YouTube. If you go to the Krueg Show on YouTube, you can go to the page. Let me see if I can show it to you by going to it myself. Yeah, if you go on YouTube to the Krueg Show page, our channel page, and go to the store, you can buy right now. Let me double check it. Make sure. My son set this up the other day. We just designed it. There it is. Can you guys see that? On the front, it has the Krueg Show logo. On the back, it says, "You're effing lazy." Yeah, it's a $35 T-shirt. It was a little bit more expensive. It's white. It's a black shirt with white writing and red outline, and then the regular Krueg Show logo that we have on our other shirts on the front. So that's on the back. Yeah, you can buy it right now. You can get it right now. They're sold and shipped by a company called Fourth Wall, and they're housed on, if you go to the shop page or the store on the Krueg Show thing, you see where it says store right there. You can order it right now, $35. J49 says, pay Pasquale his juice payments, Larry. Pasquale's now my bookie. J49 says, Pasquale rocks. Come see how the sausage is made. MF says, Larry, who's the starting kicker? I'll say this. The Niners have 2 starting kickers. That's why I'm very confident that Zane Gonzalez will fetch a pick, because Zane Gonzalez connected the other day from 57 out. 57-yard field goal for Zane. So, yeah, I mean, the Niners, that was a great little trade. That little trade of Zane Gonzalez is going to be able to net the Niners probably a 6th or 7th round pick. Zane Gonzalez is better than like 4 or 5 kickers that are the best kicker in their camp, and he's going to lose out most likely to Jake Moody. But then you also have Robbie Gould out there on the market. So there are some teams that may try to go after Gould. You can sign him. You don't have to give anything away. Fish and Chip says we keep two kickers. Then no, there won't. The one thing that doing the 53-man roster cut down illustrated to me is that there's no chance in hell that the Niners will be able to go with 4 quarterbacks on the active roster. You just can't do it. You can't do it. Fish and Chip says, didn't we give up a 7th for Zane? It was a conditional 7th, I believe. So if he doesn't make the team, I don't think that counts, and they can trade him for a pick. They basically just kind of occupied Zane Gonzalez, and they can trade him if they want. Knees says, I really don't think they trade Trey Lance. This is Tifo. That wouldn't trade Mullins or Beathard. Kept Jimmy as long as humanly possible and still ran out of quarterbacks last year. One season with a healthy quarterback. I don't think they're going to move Trey either, but you know what? They said something to Darnold and Allen to get them to come here. And we don't know what that is. And we don't know how they feel about Brock, and we don't know how they feel about Trey. They've said they like them both, and people have said that to me well, they said they like them. Are you seriously? Is that where we're at? You do know that they're never ever going to say they don't like anybody. Nobody ever is going to. Why would you intentionally devalue an asset? You could be totally skeptical about somebody and be like, yeah, we love him, until the moment he's not on your roster. But we don't know. We know that they feel like he's improved. Talking about Trey, he has improved. We know that they're all in on Brock because Shanahan just called him the real deal. Shanahan, Lynch, and Jed all said he's the starting quarterback. But the question is, how wed to Brock are they? How much do they believe in the improvement of Trey Lance? How committed are they? And then here's the main thing is this. Do they want to, if somebody's going to offer them something good for Trey, like a day 2 pick or a player in a day 2 pick, are they gonna say no? We're gonna keep him, and then if they're gonna keep him, does that mean they're gonna be willing to pay him big money next year? I think they're gonna have to pay him like $15 or $17 million next year. And what if he's the backup? So there's a lot of unknown here. I think that there's a lot of unknown here. We don't know how these guys are gonna play. The other thing is, if Trey Lance plays really well in the preseason, I think his trade market could explode because there's still more teams that need quarterbacks than there are good quarterbacks. Who's Washington's quarterback? If I'm Washington, I would want Trey Lance, especially if he looks great in the preseason. Right now, he's a $9 million question mark, and nobody wants a $9 million question mark. That's how you get fired as a GM. You can trade a day 2 pick and a player for a $9 million guy that you don't know if he's any good. But what if he looks great against the Raiders in these practices Thursday and Friday? What if he looks great in the preseason game against the Raiders? Then you've got teams that may come knocking, and they may come knocking with a real offer. And then how did the Niners respond? We don't know. We just don't know. All right, that's going to do it. Time for dinner, 5:45. Time for me to get something to eat. It's been a great day at practice. I've got some great videos coming out on the 49ers in the next couple days. I'm not going to Las Vegas, but I will be doing streaming over the next couple days. Tomorrow, Grant and I will do a stream again combined on both channels. And then tomorrow, or I should say Thursday afternoon, after the first practice in Vegas, Jack Hammer is going to practice, and Jack and I are going to stream right around 4 o'clock on Thursday. So we'll tune into the Krueg Show at 4 o'clock on Thursday, and Jack and I will be going back and forth. He will have seen the practice. I will not have seen the practice, but I'll ask all the perfunctory questions, and you guys can ask Jack your questions, and he'll be on. We'll do a co-stream, his channel and my channel. Join Jack's channel as well. The great Jack Hammer. I think he told me today he's over 9,000. So, or was it? Yeah, something like that. So Jack's doing well. But he'll be in Vegas for Thursday and Friday. So Jack is going to stop by on Thursday, and then Brad Graham and I are going to stream on Friday. And I love Brad. He's been at training camp a lot this summer, and we'll talk a little Niners on Friday with the great Brad Graham. And then Saturday, Hopefully, me and the coach will reunite. We'll do another stream Saturday morning with the coach. And then Sunday's game day, and we'll do a whole, probably a little pregame live stream, and then we'll definitely do a postgame live stream. And definitely join us because we want all your feedback, and I'll give you my firsthand breakdown of what I thought of the preseason Niner Raider game, and we'll have a lot to talk about on Sunday after Niners Raiders. So a lot coming up on the channel. Thanks to all of you guys for all the support and all the the super chats and all the people liking and commenting. We are now at, where are we sub-wise? We were just at 20,000. We crested 21,000. Was it yesterday or the day before? We're now closing in on 21,200. So, and I just got a note from Lucas from 95.7. He says, Larry, confirming you want to be in our 95.7 The Game fantasy football league, right? And I'm going to say, hell yes, Lucas. I plan on winning that thing. There you go. I plan on winning that thing with exclamation points. See what he says coming back. Anyway, I've only won the fantasy league one time, but I talk a ton of trash. I talk trash. I talk a lot of trash during the draft. Charlie Higgs says Larry's flexing now. Yes. El Camilo Dorado. He goes, ha ha ha, so great. Yes, I'm in, Lucas. I'm in the 95.7 The Game Fantasy League. I didn't want to do it if it's on the ESPN app, but on the Yahoo, I'm down. I don't like the ESPN Fantasy. I don't know about you guys, but I really don't like it. I like the Yahoo. I'm much more of a Yahoo than an ESPN. Nothing against ESPN, but I just think Yahoo's got a better. I like the way it looks. I like the way. I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about fantasy ESPN versus Yahoo, but I like Yahoo a lot better than ESPN. Fish and Chip says Sluck, Brandon Ayuk, Larry. Yeah, damn right I am. Hendrick says Larry looking tanned. Thank you very much. Digital Drew, often wrong, seldom in doubt. Digital Drew, I'm a Yahoo. Direct quote from Larry Krueger. Fable JVC said, who called my salt and pepper hair was a comb over just minutes ago. Now says user interface is everything, Larry. It's just way better. I mean, am I the only one who thinks Yahoo's better than ESPN? I don't want to play on the ESPN. I've done the ESPN. I just don't like it as much. It's $100 buy-in. Wow. Look at that $100 buy-in. They're playing for keeps over at 95.7. We've normally done like 50. Go $100 buy-in. All right. Fine. I'm just right now. Fine. That's it. That's all. Just got to talk trash to these guys. Hendrick says ESPN fantasy is for newbies. Yeah, I don't like it. My 14-year-old will play in all kinds of leagues, and he'll be in both. But I can't. I'm a Yahoo. At the end of the day, I'm a Yahoo. Fable JVC. I'm sorry for my cruelty, Larry. Thank you, JVC. Thank you. Appreciate that. Or should I go by Fable? Should I call you Fable? Anthony Mascari. Hey, Larry, thanks for shaking my hand the other day at training camp. Awesome to meet you, Krug. Hey, man, it was awesome to meet you. Yeah, that, if I'm ever at camp or if I'm ever out and about and you see me, come over and say hi. Unlike some people who don't like anybody, I like people. I like other content creators. I like fans. I am a fan. And I am a content creator. So always come over and say hi. Always introduce yourself. I'm never the guy. You could come up to my table in, the middle of a restaurant and be like, hey, man, I watch your show. I just wanted to say hi. I don't care if I'm sitting there with my wife. Come on over. You know what? There's a lot more private sector things than public sector. If people who put themselves out in the public, like YouTube, radio, television, and then act all butthurt when people recognize them, it's like, what the hell, dude? You're putting yourself out there, and I realize your private time's your private time, but come on. You want to be a private person so bad, go be a private person. But if you want to be a public person and you're putting yourself out there in the public eye, then be a people person. Who did I learn that from? G-Rad. G-Rad was the best with people. Never shined anybody, ever. Anybody could come up to Gary anytime, and he'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Oh, now my 14-year-old's like, ESPN is the best. Shouldn't you be in bed? Well, no, it's not even 6 o'clock. But damn you, 14-year-old. See, they get to 14, they start having their own opinions. Fish and Chip says, Larry, people person Krueger. Thank you. Riddy Musich. Hey, Riddy. He says, 49ers are winning it all this year, guys. I feel good about the Niners. I really do. Fable JVC. You're a man of the people, Larry, like Fish and Chips just wrote. I like people. That's what can I say? We had a bunch of people come up to me over the last couple of weeks at training camp, and it makes me happy, man. It makes me happy. Not only do, because especially other content creators, because it's like, hey, Jesse was there, and we got a bunch of people. Breezy was in the house. There's a lot of good content creators, and they were all there. The great Ted was in the house. Ted and I have made up. I made up with Hensley. So all you guys who said, you know what, I'm siding with Krug, I'm never following Hensley, go follow Hensley. We've kissed and made up. We didn't actually kiss, but you know what I'm saying. 49er Empire says, Larry, I'm calling it right now. Niners are going 16-1. All right, well, who are they losing to? Don't tell me Philly. They ain't losing in Philly. Fish and Chip says, name the butthurt creators, Larry. BV50 says, Larry has the gift of gab. Thank you. I just like people. I like sports. I like people. I like talking to people. So if I'm ever out and you see me, you're never going to be offending me. I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy who's like, my private time is my private time. Get the fuck out of my face. I'm not that guy. I'm just not. Cosmo says, watch out, Kevin. Chris is coming. Says Chiss, but I know what you meant. Yes. Mike Monahan. What's up, Mike? He says, this ain't age-appropriate chat, Larry. My 14-year-old's durable. He can handle it. He's heard it before. He's my kid. There you go. Digital Drew says, challenge accepted, Larry. MF. Larry, do you watch the Niner games in the press box? I do, and I can't stand it. The glass is like, seriously, it's like 3 inches thick. It's always freezing in there. You can't cheer if you're sometimes like when I'm on the binocs, like give you an example. Last year I'm on the binocs. I always bring my binoculars, right? Because I'm a scout, right? I gotta see everything up close. So I'm watching it up close. I see that Ray has hit the corner and is gone. Right? I'm watching on the binoculars and I can see the angles. And in that Commanders game, I see that Ray's got the corner and then there's nobody there. It's nothing but green grass. And I'm watching it on the binoculars and I'm watching it. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, he's gone. He is absolutely gone. And like a couple people looked at me like, hey, look, that was very unprofessional. I'm like, hey, come on. It's Ray. I'm a Ray guy. And I could see it on the binocs. He had the angle, and it was a touchdown. And what the hell? It's a football game. Sorry, kill me, shoot me. I was excited that Ray hit the corner and was gone. What can I say? Holland Tracy says, would you take a shot with me, Larry? What are we shooting? First of all, I'll say yes first. I'll say yes before I go anywhere, and then I'll ask what we're shooting. What are we shooting, though? Yeah. Absolutely. What would I like to shoot? Maybe anything but tequila. Once you've yacked on tequila, you can't. I mean, I can't shoot tequila. I can drink tequila in drinks, but once you've worshipped the porcelain god at the hands of tequila, you can never shoot it again. I can't do tequila. I get like I start to have that gag reflex. It just takes me back to my college days. I can't go tequila. Anything but tequila, I'm down. Riddy says, your kid's 14 going on 30 probably. Kid's a smart one like his dad. Thank you, Riddy. Oh, he's smarter. Are you kidding me? This kid is really, really sharp. Digital Drew, Larry, has there been a player that looked mediocre from the field but looked great in the press box, or vice versa? That's an interesting question. Well, I mean, it's like there's players that look great from the press box if they've got great speed and there's great separation, but if they can't catch, like a receiver that's got awesome speed but really inconsistent ball skills, and then you see him separate, and you can see that from the press box, and you're like, wow, look at the speed on that guy. Yeah, but what's his ball skills like? Can he catch in a crowd? Will he hold on? So that's different. So I would say sometimes you can see the really fast guys on either side of the ball from the press box better than you can, you don't really appreciate it. When you're on the field, I appreciate more of the ball skills. Like, I'll give you, the Niners have two really good young receivers. One is Tay Martin and the other is Ronnie Bell. Now, why are they really good? Because these guys know how to play receiver, man. They can run routes. They've got hands. They're smooth in and out of breaks. They are refined receivers. Now, neither separate at a great level, but those guys can play receiver. I mean, they kind of both remind me a little bit of Crabtree as far as just great route runners, great hands. They're big-time receivers. That's what's kind of exciting about the Niners, too, is that if the Niners lose a receiver, they've got those two guys right there, and they both can run routes and catch the ball. So, and when you have a quarterback like Purdy who's accurate, he's going to put it on your hands, man. And all you got to do is be able to run the route and catch it. And Tay Martin can do it. Tay Martin, by the way, has a great rapport with Trey Lance. When Lance has looked the best in camp so far, it's when he's going to Big Play Tay. That's his nickname, by the way, Big Play Tay. Fable JVC, tequila is a hard no for me too, Larry. Yeah, I think it's a hard no for a lot of people. All right. I gotta chat. Wait a second. We got one. Did I see one in here? Eric Hernandez. Larry probably swears during Niner games if he watches them at home. His kids have probably heard them all. When my kids swear, my wife gets mad at me. How about that? My older kid will start swearing. She looks right at me. She gets irate at me. They get it from you. Ooh. I just cringe even thinking about that moment. Flora Rupert, 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, floor. Yes. Cosmo, Jack Daniels on the rocks. Okay. No, here's another one I won't drink. Holland Tracy, no 151. No 151. We get this one from Dan R. He says, why is it like that in the press box? Aren't most 49 reporters fans anyway? Yeah, they are. They just don't like to admit it. MF says, Larry, is Bob Fitz announcing the pregame games on the Bone? I hope so. I love Fitz. Hopefully I get a chance to see him. Good man. Absolutely good man. Good announcer, too. BV50, Larry, where in Sacramento did the gold miners train at? Sac State. They had a stadium. The late Fred Anderson built a stadium on Hornet Field. And we trained at Rancho Murrieta up 160. Love those days. A lot of good days. A lot of good memories there. Fable JVC says, good night, Larry. Good night, everybody. Good night, Fable. Cosmo says, Bacardi, Puerto Rico. Fish and Chips says, Larry has Hensley on and won't be watching. Give Hensley another shot. I did. You should too. He's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. And I know we got mad at each other and this and that, but come on. Life's too short. It was just football. MF says, I was listening to Dwayne Kuiper this morning. He said he can't get over 2002. The Thundersticks give him a headache. That's why I love Smoothie. That's why I love Smoothie, because I agree. I'm not over 2002 either. I always wonder if Dusty had gone to Reeder instead of Levon in Game 7, how would things have gone? Trock Talks says Larry fucking Krueger. Thank you. All right. Clarsard's asking about Rye. Hope Rye is well. I haven't talked to Rye in a while, but he sent me a text Rye sent me a text a few weeks ago saying that he was on a flight to Miami and he was sitting next to Eric Spoelstra. He's like, should I leave him alone or should I bug him? Should I fanboy out? I think is what he said. I said, leave him alone. Leave him alone, Rye. All right, that's going to do it for us. Hey, have a great night, everybody. A lot of Niner content coming. Thanks to everybody who has joined the channel recently, and thanks to the originals. Thanks to people who joined the channel, months ago, over a year ago. We're closing in on 2,200 subs. Thanks to all of you guys. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly what you asked for.